Welcome, I'm David Bell. This is episode 4 of our 8-part series, Introduction to Carl Gustav Jung, from sixsenses.nz. Have you ever had a dream which has a special meaning for you? The problem for most of us is we're not sure what to do with these important dreams, so we put them aside and eventually forget about them. But some dreams do come back, they're recurrent, and we think we should listen to the dream, but we don't know how to do it. We need some assistance, beginning, I think, with Freud and Jung. Now, it's not as hard to start understanding dreams as you might first think. Today we'll explore what Jung meant by archetypes. Think of an archetype as a universal image, an image which may appear in our dreams. Jung didn't think every dream was important. No, not at all. Nor is every image necessarily important. But the important dreams are trying to tell us something through archetypes and images. Archetypes shape the human psyche. For example, suppose I dreamt of being chased by a bear at the bottom of the garden. The garden's at the back of the house. It turns out to be more ordered and chaotic than our actual garden. The only escape is up a secret ladder, but a bear keeps both blocking my path and snapping at me to go forward. I had this as a recurrent nightmare as a prepubescent child, as a teen, a young adult and an adult. As an adult, it's a dream which I now think about every so often. I could approach it from a Freudian point of view. The great psychoanalysts saw all dream symbols just one way. They all conveyed an element of repressed sexuality or other desires. He was virtually a literalist when it came to dream interpretation. Dream this symbol, and it means that. Yet Freud also developed the idea of free association, but the associations all tended to end up as symbols of sexuality. He was too dogmatic about this. So in this dream, what are the key elements from a Freudian perspective? I think the ladder is actually the key to the dream. Freud saw the ladder as a symbol of sexual intercourse. The symbols of the bear and the garden are very powerful and tie in with this. Both suggest, from a Freudian perspective, the repressed desire for sexual fulfillment. Jung rejected Freud's approach as mechanical and too literal. It conveyed some truth, but much more could be discovered. Jung believed that the dreamer alone provides the meaning of the dream. The analyst was there to assist the process of self-discovery of meaning. So how would I interpret the dream now? That is, from a Jungian perspective. First and foremost, it was a grand dream, an important dream for me. It frightened me as a child on a regular basis. It so happened at the time I was just starting to be more aware of biblical stories. The local Baptist church Sunday school was run by sincere folk, but in retrospect I'm fairly sure they were fundamentalists. Despite this, or maybe because of it, I wanted to learn more than they could provide. I both wanted to belong to the church and just as much to escape from it. I remember hearing about Adam and Eve in the garden about age 10 or 11. But there were other stories that were just as vivid. David and Jonathan, David and Goliath, Jesus walking on water, Jesus miraculously feeding the crowds, something about resurrection, and Jacob's ladder. Nothing about bears. But bears I was getting aplenty with comic books and storybooks. Those bear stories were tapping into myths and legends, our common prehistory across cultures and languages. What does the bear symbolize in this mythic consciousness? Certainly power, but other qualities as well, including the idea of the right time. Just as bears hibernate, so ideas may need to lie dormant for a long time. The time will come when they awaken at the right time in the psyche. The bear, in its natural habitat, obeys the cycle of the seasons. The symbolic bear obeys the seasons of the psyche. So much for the bear. What of the garden? The garden everywhere in all cultures represents something ordered. Outside the garden is the open plain or the jungle or the wild river. Flight from the garden is from the structure to the anti-structure. The garden is sheltered and thereby comes to represent innocence. Escaping from the garden is the flight from innocence. A new kind of strength and self-knowledge is needed to survive beyond its walls. And, of course, there was the ladder. It's like Jacob's sleep on the stone pillow, and in his dream he sees the ladder. On it are figures going up and down. They represent movement between the heavenly and the earthly. As above, so below. The inner and the outer. The spiritual and the physical. Using the Jungian process, I see the nightmare altogether differently. It generates now many comforts and useful insights to me as I enter the final decades of life. I now see that a concept of selfhood was emerging in the nightmare. The archetype of the self was springing up from the unconscious, but such a powerful archetype was overwhelming to a child. Hence the bear both frightened and protective. And that was the curious feeling I had at the time. The bear and I belonged together. What was most important to me was the recurrence of the dream. It was a dream that I had to dream as a child in order that I might understand the movement of my life. It was and is grand to me, but obviously is trivial to anyone else. Equally obviously, you will have your own grand dreams. They may be from last night or spring up from a very long time ago. That's the key to working with it. Stay with the dream contents and relate them to the outer world context. In other words, anchor the dream into your time and place. Consider if archetypal images emerge in the dream itself. The main archetypes in Jungian thought are anima, the feminine principle, animus, the masculine principle, the shadow, spirit, soul, the self, the mother, the father. If you're not sure, be guided by a dream analyst. It'll be time well spent. Alternatively, and I prefer this, do your own research into the richness of myth and symbolism. Finally, don't think I'm claiming any special mystical experience. I'm talking about the kinds of dreams we may all have. If God were to speak anywhere, it would have to be into the collective unconscious, where our dreams are. In other words, the human psyche is the locus of God's activities. As Jesus said, the kingdom is within you. Join me next week as we explore what Jung meant by the term shadow. You can find much more detailed discussion at our website, sixsenses.nz. There you can join our group, Practical Theological Reflection for Better Daily Living. Thanks for watching. See you next time.